Hi, this is Sav,
Katie,
and Michael.
And we're the Accidentals.
And you're listening to the FSF Popcast.
The show where we're happy to be trolls and only talk about that state to the south when we have to.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewmen numbers 110, 111, and 112. They'll know that when they put on the red shirt and join the Yoopers and the trolls in their quest through the state flowers, that they didn't leave their family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund have their back, and what's left of their Superman ice cream.
So our guests today are one of the best things to come out of Michigan in recent years. In fact, they hail from the Traverse City area, not only one of my favorite towns in Michigan, but one that I have a personal attachment to. And they're one of the most emotionally compelling songwriters of our time, according to NPR, and I would tend to agree with that. Performing up to 270 shows each year. We're surprised they still have fingers left on each of their hands. That's a lot of picking and strumming. We are, though, very pleased and proud to welcome the band, the Accidentals, to the FSF Popcast. Welcome to the show, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, very excited. So I have to be honest, I've only become known to your music, or was shown your music, or however we should say that, so it sounds like I have more than a fifth grade education, inside of the last month.
Hey, public schools.
Yay! Go Newaygo High School. All right. So, but your most recent album, Reimagined, is where I kind of picked up on you guys. Now, Kathleen's husband, John, who's also our editor, shared a song with me and said I should listen to it, and if I liked it, that we should have these guys on the show. All right, so that song was Michigan and Again. And that song went instantly on repeat. It got put on several different playlists. And then he showed me the Reimagined album. You recorded that, of course, with the Kaboom Collective. That's an orchestra, a studio orchestra. And they just didn't release it, but you went on tour with them, from what I understand, to help support the album. Now, first of all, just coming into your music and finding your music through Michigan and Again, which is a phenomenal song. And I've tweeted at our state governor that needs to be the official state song because it is that freaking good. I'm curious, though, how did this album come about? And then what were the logistics of going from a 3-piece band, to sometimes 4, to like a 35, 36 member band where you're trying to get everybody to play, the right way and do the right thing, and how does that all work out?
Well, so Kate and I got our start in high school orchestra. That's where we met. We actually met playing in a group called the Alternative Styles for Strings Club, which would get together after school and buy arrangements of Led Zeppelin songs online and Coldplay songs, MGMT, and we would cover those songs in a quartet fashion. From there, Kate and I really bonded over similar bands, and we both volunteered. We're the only volunteers to take on this after school gig together, so to represent the Alternative Styles group. So we got together, and instead of doing any of the rehearsal stuff, we just really bonded over the White Stripes and Arcade Fire and just started playing around some songs. And then we were like, let's form a band. So we have deep roots in orchestra. We came up in it all the way through 5th grade to high school.
Yeah. I met Liza Grossman actually through a summer camp music program when I was 12 years old.
And she is the conductor and on the board for Kaboom Collective. So it all kind of comes together. All those roots are kind of showing full branches with this collaboration, which you're right, it is a complex thing. And this was one of the craziest tours of our entire lives, even outside of bringing 30 students on the road with us. But basically, they did all the arrangements. Usually we do arrangements, and we'll come into high schools and do workshops, and we have a couple arrangements that Kate and I have done in the past. But these guys have a composition team, as well as a video game animation department, and they have a recording studio orchestra, and they do all kinds of projects. This album and this tour, just one project of their whole arsenal of things that they do. So we were actually really honored. And it was kind of a cool thing for us just to hear a totally different take on these songs that didn't come from us. So then we did the album together, which involved us recording basic tracks, flying them over to them. They recorded and did a lot of takes, and then they sent it to me, and I engineered basically cleaning everything up and putting it all together. and then sent it off to mixing engineer and mastering, and then boom, we had an album. And that was a crazy process. None of us had ever really like gotten into the nitty gritty of that before, especially when you have 30 extra instruments on every track, and horns. Don't know how they work. Don't understand it, but
It's like
but it was
air or
cool to find
something.
out.
You know?
Yeah, something. Spit, oxygen. I don't know. Crazy. But we learned a lot, and it was really amazing. And going on the road with them was its own crazy thing. I'm sure we'll get into it, but they were awesome. I mean, there's every single kid who gets into this thing auditions to get in. They're ages 15 to 25 years old, and the audition process is brutal. Like, I don't know if I've been playing violin for like 12, 15 years now, and I'd have to practice to get into this collective. So these guys know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. They are the musicians, and they're nerds, and we love them. So it was a good time.
I do want to say though that the thing I liked most about the reimagined album is the fact that the orchestra adds a depth to your music. It's just it complements it so nicely in and out of the changes between what you guys had already done and the things that I had heard off your regularly produced studio albums, and then a couple of these songs like Mangrove, and the way that the orchestra highlights that music. And not to compare apples to oranges here, but I even think about it in the way that with Metallica's albums and the way that they did their S&M albums, and the way that the orchestra really adds a certain punch and power to certain songs, and a softness and a sweetness to other songs that are necessary. And I think it did the same thing for the reimagined album.
So you're saying we need to do a collaborative tour with Metallica?
I'd be down.
Okay.
That would be amazing.
I have no way to make that happen, but yes.
No, those are kind words, really. Thank you.
We had a conversation like at the beginning of the process making the album with the Kaboom Collective. We like had a phone call with Liza, who we mentioned. She's like the conductor and the co-founder. And I remember like, because a lot of the times, sometimes like youth orchestras get the short end of the stick with a Pops concert where it's like, oh, they just play like boring long notes behind the song. You know what I mean? And so we were like, hey, we're giving you some weird songs. Like a couple of the songs on our record, like they're kind of like super weird meter changes and like upbeat, like one's a funk tune, one's like a weird medieval like pop tune. And so we just told him, hey, it's all about the orchestra. Do as much weird stuff as you want. Tell the student team, like, go wild with this. So there are like hand claps and like weird stick things that people are using in the pieces. Like they're really creative, cool arrangements.
Yeah, they're fun to play. That was important to us, is that they're like really fun.
Yeah, and having all the arrangements come from the people within the collective too was really cool, especially once we got out on tour and we got to meet a couple of the people that had done some of the arrangements. So we got to meet the person who did the arrangements for, what was it, Us and Crow's Feet, I think, at our first rehearsal. Noah Horowitz. And, he was just so stoked to hear it in its full form after the fact. One of the other people that did an arrangement, their name is Aiden, and they were actually able to join us on the last couple of shows in the run. So, it was really cool to have the people that ended up doing a lot of the arrangement also kind of being there for some of the process and getting to ask them questions about how they kind of came up with what they came up with.
Yeah, that's very cool. So for you guys, what was the impact of hearing your music? Now that I know that it was arranged, some of these were arrangements brought in by the collective and things like that. How was it for you to see how other people envision your music?
Oh my gosh, it was emotionally devastating in a good way. So there's a song we have called Crow's Feet that took on a totally different meaning. I wrote it like a long time ago, but we've had lots of ups and downs since then, and it's almost like the song kind of manifested in a lot of different ways. It took on a totally different meaning as time went on, and so it became that much more emotional. And then on top of it, Noah Horowitz created this absolutely breathtaking, beautiful arrangement to that song that I literally can't, like, the first time we rehearsed with them was the first time I'd ever heard it. I had no sheet music ahead of time. I had no way of knowing what was going to happen. I just walked in and like, okay, let's play through Crow's Feet. And by the time we hit the second verse, I was like bawling and couldn't even like get through the rest of the words to the end of the song. And then Liza was like, okay, let's take it from the top. And I'm like, hang on, I need to go to therapy. Like, that was it's so good. It was so good. And even even playing the concerts, like I was still just like, oh my gosh, this is so, like, it just perfectly captured the meaning when, we've been singing these songs for like 10 years and, thousands and thousands of times. It's not that like it loses meaning to you. It's just eventually like it starts to become like almost grunting noises because it's like that you're just trying to remember the words or you're focused on something else. So for somebody else to come in with fresh ears and remind you why you do what you do and what it's all about, it's huge. So a lot of these songs, like, we hadn't touched in a long time, like Us, or Mangrove even, and they just took on a totally different life. We started playing them at shows again, and we still kind of hear the echoes of that impact in the background as we play. It's really cool. Amazing. Every musician should get the chance to do this. Obviously, it's a huge privilege and an honor, but I think it should be that accessible.
That's super cool.
Excellent.
So you've talked about having some ups and downs as a band, and included in that is having your entire trailer full of equipment stolen while you were on tour, which is insane. That was a horrible ordeal. That was awful for you guys. And it would be really, really easy for anybody to let that get you down, to be like, you know what, I'm done. This is too much. So what has continued to motivate and inspire you to write and record and perform live, even when the universe and everything seems to be lining up against you?
I mean, like when we talk about that incident, we don't typically say like, oh, that was like the worst time of our lives, because of the response that came out of it immediately. We didn't have time to focus on how bad it was. We only had this outpouring of like people checking pawn shops to see if the equipment had shown up there, people sending gas cards in the mail, people sending food, people sending, like, I had a Star Wars blanket and my pedal board that had been stolen, and I had like 3 people send me Star Wars blankets in the mail when they heard about that. Cool. And like, that kind of outpouring is how we continue to keep moving, because that doesn't just happen with, the bad things that happen. It also comes from just spontaneous acts of kindness, which we see a lot of that out on the road. A lot of people who have never met us before will like put us up at their house, or, like give us something completely out of just the kindness of their hearts. Like even last week in Hastings, a guy came up to us after the show and gave me his great grandmother's violin because he didn't have a use for it, and he thought like I could put it to use. And I double checked with him like 8 times before I took it, but like like that kind of thing is just it just takes your breath away, and that's what keeps us going, I would say, and keeps us inspired to keep writing about it. It's important to capture moments like that.
And I remember the show that we played the night after our trailer got stolen too was at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, ironically. But, they had a bunch of equipment for us. I was like, my drum set got stolen. They were like, we have a drum kit here you can use. And we were kind of like, you know what? No, we're going to use what was left in the back of the van. And all I had was a snare drum, so I think I put that around my neck. I might have had a kick drum or something.
We used like a strap case to like hook it around your neck. Yeah, and we just like made the show happen in like kind of an odd. We have one microphone left too. I remember we had one microphone that was sitting in the back of the car at the time, and we added the instruments because we brought them in that night because it was going to get below 50. Now we bring them in every night, no matter what.
I sleep with my cymbals now.
Yeah,
it's like protocol.
But yeah, no, Michael's right.
But like that show was just like we pulled it off and we made it happen, and we were all just kind of like, we can still do this. Like at the end of the day, the 3 of us are here. Nobody's hurt, everybody's okay, and like we can still make music with what we have. And I think that being able to play that show too, like right after that happened, really just like cemented us in being able to be like, no, we can get through this and like keep doing this.
I remember being amazed by the fellow fan group, like you said, the people sending you gas cards and Star Wars blankets, and just realizing how much love your fans have for you was, from a fan perspective, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the best. I would be in tears. Like that is the way they rallied around you guys was amazing.
It continues to blow us away, honestly. I mean, Yeah, the whole point of what we do, I guess, like writing and putting that out into the world is like our way of trying to make friends. It's like the easiest, the introvert's fast track to friendship because you're just putting everything out there in song rather than having to say it out loud. And so it's like a way of breaking down walls, and it just means a lot that it's impacted with people in a way where they feel like they want to give back. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I know Michigan and again was stuck in my head, like to where I was actually dreaming about it, and it was.
It does that. It legitimately
sorry
does
about
that.
that.
It just replays.
And I was like, it's stuck in my head. But it was a good song to have stuck in my head.
Appreciate
But in addition to Reimagined, the album that you just released with the orchestra, you also released an EP and full album, Vessel, over the course of 2021 and another EP earlier in 2022. How were the writing and recording processes for the album and the Timeout EPs different compared to earlier releases?
Vessel
Very.
Vessel was a long-term project, which kicked off a lot of things we learned that we implemented for like this separate side project that we have called Timeout, which is focused on like co-writing with musicians who inspired us to be writers. And Vessel, I was just talking to someone about this earlier today, was like an album that kind of started in 2015. And I was telling them, they were like, I love that song Vessel. And I was like a lot of people don't know, like that title track song was written in 2015. And like at that point we were getting in and out of a production deal. Then we got in and out of the label deal. Then we had like the van and trailer, like everything break down and get stolen. And then we had a pandemic. And then finally we finished the album and put it out. And
Don't forget our van got totaled right before that too.
We had the van get totaled. We had lots of other accidents in between. But Vessel was an album that we started recording with like our bucket list producers, right? So we did like 2 or 3 songs with John Congleton in LA, who's done work for like St. Vincent and a bunch of artists who we look up to. And then Tucker Martine, who does like the Decemberists, he recorded some songs for us in Portland. So we had the album set up, and then like lockdown happened. And so suddenly we found ourselves in Michigan in Sav's attic. We all moved in. Me and Michael were like, hey, we're going to camp out here for the pandemic, not knowing how long it was going to be. And yeah, we kind of like unpacked the van and realized, you know, like one of the things we're really grateful for is that we have a lot of gear sponsorships. So we have like a trailer with a full package of like Shure microphones. We have like Takamine guitars and violins and cellos and, you know, a whole set of like, Fender amps and all sorts of stuff. And we realized like, you know, hey, we kind of think we could give this a go. Like, let's just record it ourselves.
But there were some things we didn't have, like baffling and, you know, dedicated sound testing and like all that stuff. So what we ended up doing was taking like unsold CD boxes and building them into partition walls. And like, I think we lifted up a bed frame and then put the mattress in front of like Michael's drum corner to like catch some of those frequencies. And we would thumbtack blankets to the ceiling and bed sheets. I mean, we figured this thing out. We would clap in the room to test like, you know, any like
Nice.
bounce back. It was wild. So that's how we recorded Vessel. Like the rest of Vessel was just by trial and error. And, you know, we engineered it ourselves. The 3 of us all took turns. Yeah, it was a wild time. And it took 8 months of just every day, like throwing ourselves at the rest of the songs. I think we recorded some songs like 6 or 7 times over before we found the right tempo or the right key or this and that.
Especially
which, you know, super different.
Fractals.
Yes, Fractals is what I was thinking of. But like that's the thing is like usually we would only go in and have like 3 days with this engineer and we're just going to cut it, you know, and then live with it. So to have time to sit with the music and really intentionally, you know, do our own takes or comp our own vocals, I truly think those helped us grow as musicians, like more than like almost anything that I can think of. Like that was so huge. Because you can't be a perfectionist because you're going to kill yourself trying, but you can like, you know, you can't be so bad that you can't live with that forever. So you have to find the balance between everything. There's so many balances to try and find in that process. So that's how we recorded the last 3 projects, Timeout 1, Timeout 2, and Vessel. the timeout projects are like co-write albums that we do with people who inspired us to write songs, like Tom Paxton, Dar Williams, Kim Ritchie. So that's like a totally different vibe. But you know, Vessel is like our indie rock LP foray, kind of exactly how we envisioned it, like down to the album artwork and everything. That was our record.
Very cool. So as has been mentioned before, you guys are originally from the Michigan Mitten State, smitten with the mitten, all those other cool sayings, which is great because all three of us are Michiganders. I live on the west side over by Lake Michigan. Nick is unfortunately landlocked, and Kathleen's over by Lake Huron. And
but I'm originally from Hastings.
yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we were just there.
Yeah.
The city of no internet. Yes.
Right. When you guys had internet issue, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I almost called my sister with, hey, so there's a band that I might need to have borrow your internet. But she wasn't home. So.
She wasn't home. She couldn't have stood on top of her house with her tinfoil antenna.
Right.
So having family in Traverse City, friends in Traverse City, this is all kind of cool that's kind of where you guys originated from and all those things. And as Michiganders, we understand that there's really only two seasons. There's winter and road construction. But at the same time, as we understand that, we also understand that Michigan has a long and proud musical history. There's Motown, there's, you know, all the rock groups that have come out of Detroit and some of the other cities, and are continuing on through today with artists such as yourselves. So, but, you know, each one of those has an origin story. And so we would like to talk to you a little bit about your origin story. How did you guys get together? You mentioned it a little bit ago, some of it, but what really got you involved in music and brought you together as a band?
Yeah, I think
You go first.
like Sav and I both found different ways to get into music. Probably none of us, maybe Michael knew that one day he'd end up in a rock band. We would not have guessed that. It was like hugely part of like the Traverse City gigging and local music scene and the public schools. And also a big shout out to like the local festival scene, because that's where we met Michael. Michael, you want to talk about hopping in?
Yeah, so there's a festival up in the Harbor Springs Cross Village area of the Mitten, just below the Upper Peninsula, called Bliss Fest. And I was attending back, I think in like 2013, and Sav and Katie had just put out their album Bittersweet, and they were touring it. And I caught them at Bliss Fest, and that's where I met them for the first time. And we talked incredibly awkwardly for like 2 minutes. But then like we just kind of became friends over the internet, and I was going to school for audio stuff. And the next summer they were like, hey, do you know any drummers? We're looking for a drummer. And I was like, I'm a drummer. They're like, we thought you played guitar. And I'm like, I do. But I'm like, but I played drums first. It's like my main thing. So they were like, well, do you want to come up for a month and, you know, see if you want to play some shows with us and get that under your belt? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I went up there and played shows with them for about a month. And at the end of that month, they were like, well, do you want to drop out of school and come be on the road full time? And I was like, yes. And, you know, in my brain, I was like, you know what, we'll give it like a year, you know, we'll see what happens.
Classic
and like
gap year.
Yeah. And then, classic gap year that turned into 8 years later now. So still in my gap year, really. I mean, Sav's about to go back to school, so not completely.
I started yesterday.
Or you started yesterday, yeah.
But no, it's we each had like, I would say we all had exposures to music before even that, you know, like I grew up in a very music friendly household. My parents were both musicians when they met in Nashville, and that's where I was born. And then I lived in Michigan for like 20 years, and now we're back in Nashville. But I got my start like on violin specifically because I wanted to play shows with my parents. I wanted to like be in a band with them, and like, you know, that's how it all got started. And then because of that local festival scene, like Kate's talking about, I was introduced to all these fiddle players. So they would sit me down and teach me like different fiddle tunes. And then there's an open jazz jam that happens in Traverse City at Workshop Brew. I went over there a lot as well. And those cats were really great at just, you know, bringing me under the fold and like letting me know that music was accessible for me. But, you know, we also had like a pretty life-changing thing when the Moxie Strings came to our high school and did a workshop on like how to basically do commercial strings. And they had an electric violin and an electric cello, and they were doing all this cool stuff with pedals, and we were just like, we want to do that. So that's really like our band origin story. But I know Kate has like, you know, a pretty saturated musical history as well, you know.
Saturated music history.
We both have dads who were piano players and moms who are vocalists. So
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us came from like eclectic music listening to, you know, like when we formed the band, like that was, you know, there was no doubt that like kind of everything was open on the table, you know, and Sav and I, like a lot of our first things that bonded us were, you know, like picking up indie bands and doing like weird covers of songs that no one knew, you know, or weird covers of like twists on songs people actually knew, like that Van Halen song we were talking about earlier,
that kind of stuff.
And yeah, so I think that is one of the passions that brought us all together, was like we just like, you know, doing weird music stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So a lot of artists have fan clubs, but you guys have a fam club, your Patreon community that you make feel like a family. And it has some pretty interesting rewards too, even at the goats and cheese level, which I love the level names.
Thank you.
With the Bucket Seat Chronicles podcast and the monthly Nerd Out sessions. So what has been your favorite thing about building this community that helps you create while giving back to the fans?
Well, I want to clarify too, like there's lots of different things that happen with the Patreon. We have a book club and we have a throwback album review thing where basically patrons pick both the book and the album review, and like they take like an album from like 60s 70s era and we all go listen, and then we come back and talk about it once a month. We also do like a weekly tour blog, and we write. We've had nerd out sessions in the past where we have somebody else come in and talk about their craft, all kinds of stuff. We've done a lot of different stuff with the Patreon. It's mostly like experimentation with what people want to hear about the behind the scenes of what we do. But it also is like a total community at this point. Like all the patrons tend to know each other and will like go to concerts together that they're not even our concerts. Like they'll go watch the Jayhawks together. Like if they're all in the Wisconsin area, they like meet up and hang out. And we just think that's super cool because that's what music is all about, is finding communities. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah. And I mean, we dove deep into it during lockdown as well, because we were doing everything on Zoom on our computers all the time from Sav's attic. And so it was a way kind of for us to keep, I don't know, we're all kind of workaholics. And so I think it was a good way to keep accountable by doing creative things. So for instance, I could read a book for the book club and like not feel guilty for reading a book. I'm like, this is productive. Or like Sav became like, she learned a lot about Dungeons and Dragons.
Thank
so
you.
I played my first, some of my first D&D games were with our patrons on Zoom, with Sav leading. So, you know, it was kind of like just a cool way to do stuff, but also tie it into like our business too.
Well, I want to say
Excellent.
too, like Patreon is like directly responsible for helping us launch the live streaming, because we were figuring out how to live stream before COVID happened so we could live stream to our patrons. And so by the time COVID hit, like we already had kind of a general idea of how to do it, which then I really did a hyperfixation on, but we don't have to get into that right now. So like, yeah.
Excellent.
I love the getting into D&D and having it be because of your fans. We did something similar with the podcast. Tim had never played an RPG before, ever. So we do a monthly Star Wars RPG
Oh, that's
on
so
our
cool.
live show.
That's
the
really cool.
second Monday of every month at 6:30 Eastern time, we have it's usually about 2 to 2.5 hour session. Normally our live shows every Monday night, we have a 1 hour session where we get on and we talk about something in pop culture, what's going on, something nerdy, whatever. But those nights we start half hour early and we play for about 2.5 hours. And so far, Nick's character, who's a Gungan in Star Wars lore, has not gotten us killed somehow. We don't know how, but he hasn't.
Wow.
Somehow he saved our butts multiple times.
That's good.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid talking about that, but yeah. Don't want to give the
I really
Gungans too much
feel-
credit.
I really feel too like tabletop games really bring you together, like as friends, as fans. Like that is a good way to connect with people.
And we were doing like a couple of these Patreon D&D sessions where like, I mean, we knew a lot of people from communicating with them. You know, they've been fans, or, you know, we may have not met them online, but they didn't always know each other. So we had like one session where it was like us and like this man who lives in Germany and like this maybe like 13-year-old girl and her dad. And, you know, it was like all ages, like all different identities, and everyone was just like best friends by the end.
It was so
That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, really fun. We gotta do it
It
again.
was like a whole game. I think, Sav, did you write that game?
So I had help.
Okay.
My friend Naomi like wrote 99% of that because I was having a really hard time writing about my own songs without cringing. So like trying to turn that into a plot, I was like, oh, this is the worst. But no, she really made that happen, and then I like put the actual mechanics into it. But I would totally do it again because it was super fun. And you're right, like it really does create just like a little community. It's you know, once you like get over yourself and like just really get into it, it's really fun.
Exactly.
So music education is very important to you guys. Music is math, it is history, it's also language, and it's pretty much the sum of human experience. So I know the answer to this is on your website, but what can you tell us about your interactive workshops, and what do they entail? What benefits have you seen your students experience?
It's pretty much whatever you need us to do. It changes all the time. Our first goal is pretty much when we get approached about doing a workshop, we'll ask, what are your goals for your students? Like, what are they struggling with? What do you want us to come in and introduce? Because there's a lot of facets that come with, you know, music. Like you can either talk about jobs in music, or you can talk about how to express your feelings if you're feeling like you can't open up. You can do that through songwriting or through, you know, musical expression. We do improv workshops where you just have to, like, you know, if your orchestra is having a hard time getting off the page, so to speak, like hard time playing music outside of what's written, then we teach improv workshops on how to just slowly get into doing that. There's all kinds of workshops that we do.
Yeah, we started doing songwriting workshops. We're actually going to go out to Oregon in October and do some teaching for the Sisters Songwriting Academy. And all ages, we have like one technique that's my favorite, where we always write really cool songs when we do inspiration from books. So we'll usually show up with like a bunch of random books, and we try to make them really random. We always like hand out one sort of cookbook. One
the
was
RV
like
cookbook.
Yeah, one was an RV cookbook. That got
one,
some really good
that
lines.
has so many good song titles in it. Like Stone Cold Oven Cookies, I still remember that one.
That's going on the Table album for future.
That's like so many good titles in that thing.
Yeah, so the book inspiration ones are really
We
fun.
pretty much like have them pick a sentence out of the books, and then we paraphrase it and create song verses or song choruses out of it. And they always end up like cool and really fun. So,
All right, cool. And now a word from our sponsor. Since 1982, Vital Signs and Graphics has been helping professionals with all their image, logo, and design needs. Perhaps you're looking for signs and banners, truck and trailer lettering, business cards, brochures, or other image and marketing aids. Vital Signs and Graphics in-house design studio has you covered. From logos to apparel, start to finish, Vital Signs and Graphics has everything you need to look and feel professional. Call Rick at 231-652-3300. He'll get you noticed. Welcome back to the FSF Popcast. All right, so you guys are on the road quite often, and my family, we do a lot of road traveling and things, and we have come to learn, and I'm sure that you guys have come to learn, that on any road trip, food is a necessity, and good food, fun food, is an absolute necessity. So having been on tour quite a bit, you've probably learned what kind of things you like, what kind of things you don't like, which things are safe, what things are going to leave you in the back of the tour bus, unfortunately doubled over, and other things along those lines. But what have been some of your favorite or more interesting culinary discoveries while traveling?
La Tequila in
La
Madison,
Tequila.
Wisconsin. In Madison, Wisconsin.
yes, absolutely. We route tours through this place. Like when we have to go to like the West Coast or Minnesota or anything like that, or anywhere, like we just cut through Madison because we know about this restaurant. It's called La Tequila. They give you so much food. It's so good.
Like a giant plate of rice and beans and plantains and pork.
And like a Cuban like corn cake too. They give
Yeah.
you, and then like
That's
horchata
amazing.
and like passion fruit juice. And
The portions
please.
are huge. The prices are low. They have great fruit juices. Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah.
I like how Sav's trying not to eat her hand as she's talking about
Just
this. It's
like
fantastic.
hungry, okay, man. I just like I can't think about this place like when we're not gonna go near it anytime soon because it hurts too bad. But
How do I spell? What was that?
La Taguara, Taguara. Wow. Yeah.
Nick's planning a road trip now.
That's a really good spot. But like as far as like specific food items, I think we all like agree on some core staples like Thai and Mediterranean. That tend to be
Yes.
like the things that we will definitely all agree on.
We always
And
have
Mediterranean.
one- Yeah.
Go for it.
No, go ahead. I'm going on a tangent.
I was just going to say, like, Mediterranean is always a safe bet on the road because, especially if you're traveling with people who have like different kinds of dietary restrictions and things like that, like there's usually something for everybody at like a Mediterranean place.
Well, also,
Absolutely.
I think we'd be remiss to not talk about Zingerman's in Ann Arbor because we've been there
yeah.
twice in 1 week, or twice in 2 weeks rather. Yeah, that place rocks. Ann Arbor, Michigan, Zingerman's. They have like all kinds of deli sandwiches. It's a little on the pricey side, but like it's worth it to.
It
It's
is
worth
so
it.
good.
Yeah, it
To
could be
go.
2 meals.
Yeah, just
In
save
one.
your sandwich and eat it tomorrow. Boom, because they're
I've
that
been
big.
there. It's worth it.
They're so.
Mhm.
We've had okay, this isn't like a restaurant, but like Moomer's Ice Cream in Traverse City. I feel like we needed to talk about it for a lot of reasons. The first being that we actually had an ice cream flavor briefly with Moomer's called Michigan and Again, and it had blueberries and cherries, and it was so good. I miss it.
It's really good.
Frankly, Moomers, this is me calling out to you, begging, pleading on my knees, asking you to bring it back.
Yeah, we need a
that
reissue for
too.
real.
What did you say?
We had Accidentals kombucha from Cultured Ferments in Travis.
Yeah.
All right.
Katie, you had a food Instagram as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Katie that eats that food. My mom was like, Katie, you should really like make a food blog. And I was like, okay, well, I'll come up with a lazy name. And yeah, I post tons of food pictures there. And recently, like my Facebook page and my personal Instagram like got hacked and deleted. So now I just go off of Katie Eats Food, which is kind of like my main personality trait anyway. So yeah, lots of good
I get
food.
that.
I also like posting really bad food there too. Like sometimes we make bad decisions in the middle of the night. We've learned a lot of we've learned like what Taco Bell drive-throughs we can't fit the trailer through. And
Okay,
Yeah.
but Katie also is like, Katie's the most adventurous food eater because she'll see like pickle in a bag at the gas station, be like, sign me up. Or like, what about
pickle snow cone.
oh, the pickle snow cone, or the peanuts, the boiled peanuts that happen down here in the South too.
Oh no! Don't forget the pizza flavored cheese curds that one time. Through
God.
Scotland.
What?
Okay, so I
one-
would have
my
taken a run
only-
at those.
My least favorite.
Thank you.
My only thing that bothers me about Katie Larson, okay, it's that she eats spaghetti in the morning. It physically revolts me to my core. I get
Okay.
so nauseous every time I see her.
No,
do it.
I'll
It's happened
back
5
Katie
times.
on that one.
No,
I'll back
it's
Katie
so
on that
horrible.
one.
I can't even
Is
think about
it fresh cooked spaghetti or is it
No,
like
it's leftover
Like
spaghetti.
leftovers.
Is
you
it
know.
still
So,
cold or do
Is
you
it
reheat
cold or
She's eating
reheated?
it cold. I've watched her eat it cold.
Oh yeah, that's unacceptable. You
It's
got to
too
put that
much.
stuff in a microwave.
It's a lot.
Look, as long as you're not, cracking open a can of SpaghettiOs and going at it, I don't
I
care.
want to do that. Yeah, I'm not that crazy.
No, I know people who would like, they wouldn't even heat it up. They would just open the can of SpaghettiOs and like start drinking it like juice.
That's chaotic. I can't
Okay,
handle
but-
that level
Chaotic
of chaos.
evil.
Yeah.
I think they're all in prison now, but that's a whole other story.
totally not related.
To Katie's point, if you can eat pasta in the morning that is cold, that means the pasta is still good. Like it was good warm, but if it's still good cold, you got some good pasta on your hands.
True. Yeah, if the consistency is still good. See, I'm not a breakfast person. I would rather just skip it and go straight to have 2 lunches.
Oh my god.
She's actually
What about
part of
second
it.
breakfast?
We try to cook. Yeah, exactly. But also we cook sometimes on the road, like the Vessel album release tour. We stayed at a lot of Airbnbs, and so we would, we'd have like family dinner and cook a
cute.
bunch of food in the Airbnb kitchen, and then like you leave at like 10 a.m. the next morning. What are you going to do with all that leftover spaghetti? You got to quickly eat it and then go on the road.
And it is impossible to make a 3-person
sacrifice.
spaghetti dinner.
It's a sacrifice that you're making on our behalf. Got it.
She's
you-
eating it for you, Seth. She's eating it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she cares. She cares about you so much. She's eating it for you.
Things I do for this man, the sacrifices I make.
If you make it to the Huron side of Michigan again,
And
and again,
And again.
it happens all the time. If you guys make it to Pinconning, you have to try pizza loaf, though.
Pizza loaf. I'm in.
Pizza loaf.
You honestly don't need to say anything else.
That's right. I'm naming
Pizza
my next
loaf
cat.
speaks for itself.
I'm gonna name him Pizza Loaf.
And it's funny is when I moved over here, and my husband's like, "Oh, we're gonna go." A friend of ours wants to go get pizza loaf, and I'm like, "What?"
Isn't that just a
It is.
calzone?
But it's like different because it's bread shaped instead of calzone shaped. But it's really, really good.
It's in my
And-
list of cat names now.
Yes, it's a great
There you
cat
go.
name. It's a great cat name.
Oh man, it reminds me of the pizza pasties. We did one whole Upper Peninsula Michigan tour where we ate a pasty every single day.
Yes.
We were committed for
pasties.
like 6 or 7 straight days, and they just got better quality as we made our way.
Yeah,
up.
that was the best thing. Was like, oh my gosh, I was like, am I going to get sick of these? But the further we went into the Upper Peninsula, the better they just kept getting.
Right?
You know, and so I was like, I could do this for another week.
Which is hilarious
sign me
because
up.
the ones in St. Ignace are fantastic.
Yeah.
The further you go, they're just gonna.
You just have to. You just have to make sure you don't make
Pasties.
the mistake of asking for a pasty. That's something different.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah.
That was an uncomfortable
Is that a personal
conversation.
story, Tim?
So anyway, don't you have another
time.
question?
Before we go down the food row too far, since I also think there's spaghetti cooking in the other room here. I smell pasta. Anyway, so I grew up in a somewhat musical family. My grandma was an opera singer. My parents met doing stage theater. And now I have a soon-to-be 4-year-old who has her own ukulele, a toddler-sized drum set. Like it's a real drum set, but it's small.
Think Animal from the Muppets.
Oh gosh,
It's accurate.
very much so. A kazoo, an accordion, maracas, whatever else she can talk her dad into buying for her, which anytime he can go to the local guitar store, he's going to. So being a female-fronted multi-instrumental band, what encouragement do you have for the girls going into music, which can sometimes be a rather male-dominated industry?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think we think about it all that much because like so much of our workshops are kind of across the board, like every kid, you know. But I think if we were to centralize our advice around young girls specifically, it would just be like change the story because that's what we've been doing for the past, you know, however like 10 years of being a band. We know our craft. I have, you know, experience from school as like an audio engineer and experience now as an audio engineer, and like I know where to plug all my cables in. And then, you know, when we go into a venue and we do just receive like, you know, some discrimination, like most of the time we just put our heads down, finish our job, and by the time sound check's over, the perspective has changed, or the story is different, or someone walks out with a different feeling, or sometimes there's even an apology. So like, you know, that's how you change it. You don't, you know, it's something that you just have to just work through and just prove that you're just as competent. Like, and you don't need to prove it to anyone else except for yourself, I guess. So change the story and only do it for you. Like,
Yeah, I agree. Like I wish someone had told me, which we kind of figured out eventually, but wish someone had just like let me know, hey, like whatever you want to do for your personality, like it exists out there. Like whether you're super outgoing, whether you don't want to be in the spotlight, whether you like performing or writing or the tech side or studio work, or you like being around people, or you like being alone. Like you don't have to check off a certain list of boxes to make it in the music industry. Like, you know, there's a place for you, you know, just based around who you already are.
yeah.
Awesome.
I love that.
That's
feel
a
warm and
fantastic
fuzzy now.
answer, honestly.
I legitimately like feel warm and fuzzy. That's
Oh,
great.
thanks.
That's good. It's an answer I will also play for my daughter. My daughter's 15. And so we're always looking at ways to make sure that she's, and something we've discussed in many interviews before, Kathleen as well, where we want her daughter to grow up knowing that she doesn't have to be the princess locked in the tower waiting for somebody to come save her, that she can be the hero of her own story. And that's the same thing we try to teach my daughter as well, my wife and I, that she can be she is the hero of her own story. And if she wants to do this, then the only thing that's stopping her from doing this is her.
Yeah, like, look at like some of the most mainstream artists right now. You have like Taylor Swift is dominating the pop charts. You have Brandi Carlile, who's like, an openly queer country like rock star. And you have, like Allison Russell blowing up on the scene. You have like bands like Sister Strings who are like playing all this amazing, like they're accompanying on strings, like all these amazing people. Like there's tons of like, and Phoebe Bridgers and Lucy Dacus and like Julian Baker, like all these people are like you're proving that that's successful, which was, we watched Brandi Carlile do a panel at Americana Fest at one point, and that's what she was saying is basically, there's something for you no matter who you are, and you just have to prove that that's successful, which, if it's genuine music and like you're doing exactly what music is all about, which is tearing down walls and creating communities, like, yeah, that's successful.
That's cool.
So we all exist outside of our day jobs. Even if our day job is being really awesome musicians who get to do what they love on a daily basis, or we do this podcast because we love talking to people and learning more about them. So when you aren't being the accidentals, what projects or activities or even like genres of shows that you like to enjoy, like what keeps you being you?
Oh man, we already checked off a lot of things. Food,
books,
D&D, books. But yeah, like I don't know. I've kind of grown up, like before I was a musician, I thought I would be into the film industry because I love TV series and movies, and especially like documentaries. So I'm like always in the back seat, like on Netflix or something. That's my like relaxation time, or knitting, or sewing.
Nice.
I'm, as I said, I'm a biology student now, and I've always been like, when I was a kid, I definitely thought I was going to be like a field researcher at one point, and like super fascinated by like animal behavior and like neuropathy and stuff. So, a lot of times I'll just be like reading books on that, or
collecting animal bones,
which is, I now know how to bleach those, and my Amazon shopping list looks like the shopping list of a serial killer, so sorry for whatever government watch list I'm on now. Whoops. But yeah, like, and outside of that, we all have like different hobbies that we do, but we do read a lot of books, which is really cool. And Michael, what about you?
Well, I mean, I think pretty much anything that I do outside of the band is still kind of like music involved. Like I've started a little recording studio in Grand Rapids, and I've been working on a bunch of different projects. Like I've got a sea shanty project with my buddy Ben. We put out an album of that stuff last year, hoping to do another one. And, just getting my hands into a lot of different things. Like I'm really in love with recording and mixing and being able to like make sound do whatever I want it to do, and just like get into the weeds of like the weird stuff. And like, I don't know, I love it so much, and I kind of realized that it's like something I always want to be a part of my life. So I just, any free time I have, you'll see me with like headphones on at 1 a.m. watching like YouTube tutorials of like how to use a specific plugin, or how to EQ something in a weird, in a way to sound like a 70s drum sound or something like that. So that's where my brain is almost like all of the time.
Michael's getting a t-shirt for Christmas that says "Make sound do the thing."
Yes. For real. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, it's gonna do what it do. So. Yeah,
and it do what it be. So
exactly.
At the end of the day, we can only be how we do. Really. I think it was Kant that said, when you be how you do.
No, he did not.
It's Kierkegaard, really, who is the.
Oh my God.
But no, at the end of the day, I'm just a music nerd, like through and through. I love it.
And I hate to tell you where you're wrong, but it was Vonnegut. All right, so
And it was Vonnegut.
Well, you guys had mentioned though before we started the show that you are pro anything sci-fi. So where are your sci-fi go-tos?
Oh my God, I took a sci-fi class in college. Like specifically, we read short stories. I love short stories. I just watched Nope, by the way, which is a great example of sci-fi to me. I loved it, and it was all like animal oriented too. And I'm not getting into more spoilers. That's it. That's all you get. You can tell from the horses in the poster anyway. I don't care. Anyway, so like that. I recently read like The Three Body Problem,
which was
really great. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So I just finished that. I've read like Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. There's like tons of examples. I'm blanking now, but like, you know, Vonnegut's great. Arthur C. Clarke. Just like if you could see the bookshelf over there, it's just rife with sci-fi and then biology books. So that's pretty much all I read. Mike, what about you?
Well, yeah, The Three Body Problem actually like made me cry at one point. Like that series is like it's like almost hyper realism in how like they talk about how governments would handle like an alien invasion. Anyway, great series. And then I guess it's not sci-fi. I was gonna say The Name of the Wind. So like the King Killer Chronicles I started reading and am, you know, waiting with bated breath for the third book in the series that is now 11 years in the waiting. So
on the first day of our sci-fi class, we had a debate on whether or not Star Wars was a fantasy or a sci-fi, and
I think it's fantasy.
No one could reach a proper conclusion. So at this point, like, The Name of the Wind can be whatever you want it to be. Is what I'm saying.
It's space fantasy.
There you go. Okay.
I agree.
Space opera.
As a lifelong diehard Star Wars fan, it's space fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Trying to bring midichlorians into it was ridiculous. I mean, you can try your best, but you know, once you shoot the bullet, you can't bring it back. So
thanks, Qui-Gon.
They jumped the shark.
Oh yeah. Excellent.
Kate?
All right. Well, those. Yeah, Kate. What's
no sci-fi?
No, only food for Katie.
Only food.
She's like, no. But if you could bring me some of those things that they were eating in the sci-fi shows, we'll talk.
I wish the pickle snow cones were science fiction.
Do we have the book for you?
All right, guys. Then, if she has no votes, then we'll move into their next segment of the show.
You have no rights.
And you're done.
You have nothing.
All right. So we're at a point in our show where we like to take our guests through a little bit of a quiz. Okay.
That's why I said to call it a game.
Yeah, it's a game. It's definitely a game. It's 4 questions. It's 4 questions. Each question is multiple choice. Okay. Now, if you get 3 of the questions correct, Kathleen is going to hold up this book. It's called The Custodians of the Cosmos. It's a sci-fi themed book. It's written about something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet, you know, because we don't want to get anybody sued. It's all about a young man who wanted to join it, washed out, rejoined, so that he could boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went. So,
however, it is right up Katie's alley since I just opened it, and no wonder the lactarians love cheese so much. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I could make this up.
The main character's name is Cale Butterly. So, yeah, there's something for everybody in that book. Wow. There's bathroom humor, there's sci-fi, there's food.
So
bathroom
wait, what happens with the book if we get 3 of them right?
If you get 3 of them right, I'm going to send you each a copy of the book.
Oh.
All right, the stakes are high.
Okay. However, if there's good things, there has to be bad. If you guys only get 2 of the questions correct, we take your picture, we make a meme out of you, and we put you into our 205,000 member Facebook group. We call it our fun sequence.
Bring it on.
Can we also have that?
Yes.
Sure. All right. So the quiz name is Michigan and Again. See what we did there?
Oh, God.
Oh.
All right. So there are 4 questions. We will only accept an answer after you say final answer because there's 3 of you. So that way, one of you doesn't blurt out the answer and the other 2 look at the other one with looks of derision. So anyway, Nick, start us off.
The official state flower of Michigan is
Apple blossom. Apple blossom.
It's multiple choice.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I got excited.
A, apple blossom, B, lilac, or C, traffic cone?
Oh, I mean, it's 3 really good options, honestly.
It's the apple blossom.
I'm gonna go with whatever Sav
Thomas.
says because she's the biology
A.
nerd.
Final answer.
Hey, final answer.
Very
It's the
good.
robin.
We would have accepted traffic cone as well.
Oh my god.
Good, good.
Oh goodness.
Okay, I'm ready for the next one.
Question number 2. The Mackinac Bridge spans how many miles? A, 3, B, 5, or C, 7?
It's not 7. That's way too long.
Yikes. Yikes.
I want to
Like
say
Michael
it's
would know
3 because it's not like
longer than 3.
incredibly long.
It feels longer than 3. No.
But it doesn't quite feel 5 though. That's the thing. It's like 5 would be like it only takes you about like 5 minutes to get across the bridge. So
How about we
and
do
if-
rock, paper, scissors where if I
okay, so if
win
it's 5
3,
minutes to
you
take
win,
across the
it's 5.
bridge, and you have to go 35 miles an hour on the bridge.
I hate math.
So I don't know.
Why is there always a train involved?
Why does he have so many apples?
My gut says 3, but I could be wrong. What do you think?
I trust you, geography man.
Okay.
Final answer?
Yikes, yeah.
Yep,
All right. Wrong. It is 5.
I knew
it
it.
is 5.
It is
That's
5.
crazy.
That's what you
I love
get
that
for
Sav's so
playing.
excited about it being wrong. She's like, yes, it's wrong.
It only matters to me that I'm right.
7's too long. 3's too short.
Yeah, this is called the Goldilocks method of hypothesizing.
Nice.
The Michigan State motto translated into English means A, it's not the heat that gets you, it's the humidity.
I know this one already.
B, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you. Or C, if you're looking for heaven, it's north of the bridge.
It's B.
Pleasant
It is.
peninsula.
Yeah.
If you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you.
Yeah, they teach you that in like 4th grade.
Yep.
You had a
That
much
is
better 4th
correct.
grade school than I did, but yes, that is correct.
We've already established you only had a 5th grade education, so maybe.
Well,
They
we
taught
didn't
that
talk
in
about
6th grade.
Kellogg's like true origins, so I don't know how
Right.
good it was. But yeah,
we
we talked
don't
about Kellogg.
All right, so 2 correct, 1 wrong.
All right.
This
Question
decides whether you get the
four.
book or the meme.
If you get the book or the book. Or
And the
if-
meme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brain.
if you get one or both,
Tim's brain is contagious.
you're welcome.
Which of the following musical artists is not from Michigan? A, Stevie Wonder, B, Uncle Kracker, or C, John Legend?
This is bad.
I
That's not
mean,
good.
okay, so I know that Uncle Kracker is like Michigan based because I used to know his drummer at one point.
Yeah, Uncle Cracker's
Wow.
definitely Michigan.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's from. That's the key. That's the key here. Is he from Michigan?
I've
I don't
never
think they're
heard that
trying to
John
do a
Legend
trick
is
question
from-
here.
I think they want to hold on to those books.
The John Legend is from. I feel
Well,
like that's
What
familiar
is,
to me too.
wait, what is the question? Which one is from Michigan?
No, it's
or
which
which
one's
one
not.
isn't?
Which
From.
one's not?
And you know what? I'll say this: I've never heard anybody like name John Legend as being like a Michigan artist. Like that's never come
Have
up.
you
and
heard
I feel
anybody
like,
say Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, he's Motown, dude. He
Oh,
was
right,
like
okay.
Detroit originally, like doing all the
Okay,
stuff.
yeah. All right, so
But also well, no, but he was Motown, so I feel like Stevie's safe. But like John Legend, I feel like I've never heard him
I feel
come
like
up
I
in
have.
talks of Michigan musicians and things.
I'm worried. I'm
Got a lot
just yeah,
hinging
okay.
on this.
Yeah, I'm actually stressed. Okay. Oh boy. All right. So we're saying that John Legend is not from Michigan. Is that what we're doing?
That's what my gut's telling me, but my gut also told me that the Mackinac Bridge was 2 miles shorter than it is. But like I feel like the other two are pretty ubiquitous in terms of like Michigan notoriety, and I feel like John Legend isn't.
I mean, you did say it is not 7 miles, and it is 2 miles less than that.
That is true. I get like half points. I get half points for that.
Oh, yikes.
And we'll give you quarter points for ubiquitous.
Wow.
Thank
yeah.
you. Mwah.
75%. Okay.
Yeah, I said John Legend.
Okay.
And as much as I wanted it to be that Uncle Cracker wasn't from Michigan, it is John Legend.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Uncle Cracker was born in Mount Clemens.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Stevie Wonder was born in Saginaw. John Legend was born in Springfield, Ohio.
Really?
Ooh, so near
The state to the south.
That's
Huh.
Okay.
Wow.
Has to be brought up once per podcast.
Yeah. There always has to be
It
Ohio trash. It's just what we do.
comes up more often than once typically.
Especially
All right,
if
so
we have podcast guests who are from Ohio.
we have a buddy who's from Columbus, and it's brought up often. So, all right, guys. So we have 3 correct answers. That gets you each a book, and we're going to take one of your promo pictures, and we're going to turn it into a meme.
Oh, good.
You're still getting
we're-
memed.
We're still going to get you a meme, okay?
I appreciate it.
Well, Sav, Katie, and Michael, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you guys, the Accidentals, and your work?
So you can go to theaccidentalsmusic.com and you'll find all of the other links and everything, our tour dates, our bio, everything that you want to possibly know about us at that link, theaccidentalsmusic.com. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/theaccidentals, which is a great place to get to know us. And we post like every day and there's always something for everybody. So yeah, check it out.
Well,
We're on all the streamings, and we're on Bandcamp.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
we got
we are.
all of that thing. There's a
Yeah.
secret song on Bandcamp. I think we still have that
Ooh.
Welcome Back song is up on
Oh, yeah.
Bandcamp. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I know where else I'll be going after we're done here. Okay.
We will definitely link all of those in the video description so that our listeners can find you guys.
Exactly. And so we just want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us continue to grow, get amazing guests like the Accidentals here to come onto the show, share some laughs, have some good moments for you to be able to listen to. And so please subscribe. It helps us out more than we can ever really describe. And please be sure to go check out their work and go to their Patreon, be a subscriber there. You get some really cool benefits. I mean, the goats and cheese thing, I think it's called. I'm pretty sure I screwed that up, but it sounds amazing, and I'll be checking that out more later.
No, that is what it's called.
Nailed it.
Yes. All right. Well, hey, got to get 1 out of 3 correct today. But if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please do feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the Michigan Department of the Road Commission. We picked them as the head of our complaint department because they don't care about your complaints. And they will most likely ignore any serious issues and just cover up the minor offenses with asphalt instead of paving it over and making it new. Not to mention the weak standing on the sideline, making it look like road construction when the problem isn't really being cared for. So just send 1 copy of your complaint, because even if they see it, we'll have literal weeks to a month to correct whatever the problem was before they attempt to fix it. You know, Band-Aids on boo-boos.
Thanks again, guys. Thank you for being here.
I think
Thank
the
you.
road
Yeah,
commission
thank
needs to
you.
Go to the hospital with their degree parents. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Vision just got
They're
burned.
amazing.
As somebody
I
who's
have to
living
figure
in
that
an
out.
MDOT insanity right now, like
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
gets too close to home.
Well,
So-
yeah, I bet. I'm sorry, y'all, but thank you so much for
Yeah,
having us
Thank
on.
you guys. This was great.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF Popcast. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Popcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPopcast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.